Hazard communication, an overview. American workers use tens of thousands of chemicals every day. While many of these chemicals are suspected of being harmful, not all are regulated in the workplace. As a result, workers suffer more than 190,000 illnesses and 50,000 deaths annually related to chemical exposures. Workplace chemical exposures have been linked to cancer as well as other lung, kidney, skin, heart, stomach, brain, nerve, and reproductive diseases. To protect workers from the adverse effects associated with the chemicals used in their workplaces, employers need access to information about these chemicals, as well as recommended protective measures. This information must then be communicated effectively to employees for their personal safety. Before we begin with the specifics of OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, let us understand the significance of a workplace hazard communication program by using a real-life scenario. Consider the example of a restaurant manager who died after being exposed to toxic fumes in the workplace. On the day of the incident, a restaurant employee poured a chlorine bleach-based cleaning product on the kitchen floor to scrub it clean as the day drew to a close. Unknown to the employee, an acid-based cleaning product had previously been spilled in the same area. When he started to scrub the floor, a chemical reaction occurred, resulting in the release of the toxic chlorine gas. Workers and customers, some of them coughing, streamed out of the restaurant as the fumes spread. In an attempt to get rid of the chemical product, the restaurant manager used a squeegee to collect and move the liquid. This is when he was exposed and left the building too. It is important to note that the employer did not have a hazard communication program in place and therefore, did not train employees on the safe use of chemicals, or the emergency procedures to follow in case of exposure. Emergency services arrived on the scene and found the manager in obvious distress outside the restaurant. He was rushed to the hospital, but he died a short time later. 13 other people, 11 employees and 2 customers, were also hospitalized with burning eyes and difficulty breathing. Take a moment to think about this incident. How could this tragedy be prevented? What difference would a hazard communication program make? If the employee cleaning the floor had known that whenever they see an unidentified cleaning agent or unknown liquid on the floor, they should not add anything to the mix, the chemical reaction and the subsequent release of the toxic chlorine gas could have been prevented. Similarly, if the employer had adequately trained employees, the manager would have known that in case of exposure to chlorine gas the area must be immediately evacuated. What is evident from this example is that if the employer had a hazard communication and training program in place, the employees would have recognized the potential hazards of mixing together incompatible chemicals, understood the significance of reading safety labels and instructions on various chemicals before use, and known the emergency procedures to follow in case of a spill or release of a hazardous substance in their workplace. Thus, having the right knowledge would have made the difference between life and death. And that is why it is worth your valuable time to learn about the specific hazard communication elements set forth by OSHA to help you recognize the hazards of the chemicals you work with and understand the protective measures to prevent exposure.